Welcome to Law and Crime. We have new information with a story we've been following out of Connecticut. Fotis Dulos was arraigned today on a new tampering with evidence charge. This is in connection to his estranged wife's disappearance. Dulos pled not guilty with his attorney, Norm Pattis, by his side. Our own Aaron Keller at that courthouse today. Let's listen to what was said.
Good morning, Judge Norm Pattis and Kevin Smith on behalf of Mr. Dulos.
Thank you. Attorney Colangelo.
I spoke with counsel this morning, Your Honor. We'd like this matter transferred to Part A for October 4th. There's a matter down tomorrow that I will administratively continue to the October 4th date, so they'll both be down together.
Attorney Pattis.
And Judge, we consent to that transfer and agree to it. We'll jump the ball here and plead not guilty. We've had an opportunity to read the warrant. Nothing places Mr. Dulos in that car other than the state's belief. And our view is when the state's got some proof and more than abstract beliefs, it will know where to find us. This business of seriatim arrests on de minimis
Well, counsel,
stuff
this is not the time for the closing argument.
Oh, it is a time for it, Judge. It is a time.
If you wish to make a closing argument, counsel, if you wish to make a closing argument, you can wait until after, if there is a trial, the trial.
If the state waited before publishing its warrants and having the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety talk about the tests that were out there, we would wait. But since the state can't, we won't. We're eager for this fight, and when the state's ready, bring it.
Well, this is neither the highlight for ESPN.
No, it's a court of law, and we have to sit silently while we read these allegations and warrants. And are cut by 1,000 deaths.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, I'm just going to have Mr. Dulos sign the transfer slip.
And we'd like to enter not guilty, please, in jury elections, Judge.
All right, so that was from earlier today in a Connecticut courtroom. And to give you the backstory here, Fotis Dulos was arrested at his Farmington home last week and released a few hours later, posting bond. Now, he was in court. This was earlier today, and this was all because of the latest charges against him and his girlfriend are all related in their efforts to cleaning up a car that police believe is in connection to his estranged wife's disappearance. She disappeared back in May 24th, so this has been ongoing, and we've been following it since the beginning here. With me is Andrew Cherkasky to talk about all of this. So this was an arraignment today, and obviously we saw that Dulos and his attorney there said he's not guilty. They were a little sassy there in the courtroom today. What do you think of all this, Andrew?
Well, they certainly were, and I would say more than lippy with the judge. That sort of exchange doesn't happen all that often. Now, realistically, an arraignment has very little meaning. You're putting forth your plea. It starts some timelines with regard to how a case is processed. So it has a very narrow legal effect. But what we saw was some drama. So you have a defense attorney who's fighting with the judge about essentially recharacterizing some of the nature of how that defense attorney feels like the media attention and some of the things that the prosecutor went forth and put forth to the public, and the judge is snapping back. And realistically, the judge is correct. There shouldn't be closing arguments at an arraignment. But you certainly understand and you can sympathize with the defense team when prosecutors have been leaking or just outright coming forth to the public with as much information as they do in order to shape their case. So it was a fiery morning.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, especially because after this, we have more because the attorney, Norm Pattis, went and talked to the media afterwards, and we want to play you a clip from that.
Dulos pled this morning not guilty, and that is our position. We'll have plenty to say about the evidence that the state claims to have amassed when and if we get a chance fully to review it. We did object in open court today about the seriatim nature of these proceedings, and here is our message to the state of Connecticut. Mr. Dulos is not guilty. When you're ready to try a case by appropriate evidentiary standards in a court of law, you'll know where to find it. We've got 3 words for the state: bring it on.
Did you see that?
All right, so another fiery comment there from him. Andrew, what do you think of that?
Well, this gets into theories of what makes for a good defense counsel and what makes for good representation of your client. There are certainly the cases where, especially if the media is interested, they're going to want to hear something and your client wants something to be said. So definitely in this case, you can kind of get the feel that the client, Mr. Dulos, wants something to be said. They want to be fighting back in the public's eyes. Now, in many other cases, and I don't know how this case is going to play out, sometimes you just want to stay quiet. You don't want to get people up in arms against you. You want to keep your client in a low-profile position. You might even want to make it boring enough that the media loses interest in the case. I don't think that's going to be what happens here, and his attorney made a tough call and is in front of the cameras making those bold statements, and that's probably a strong move here.
What do you think about him saying to the state, hey, bring it on? I mean, like you said, that's bold.
Well, there are cases where there are deals to be had, and there's cases where there's no deal to be had. If there's no deal to be had, why say anything other than bring it on? If you're trying to look for something, if you're trying to look for a deal, if you're trying to keep relations cordial, you don't go that far. Maybe there's a deal to be had. Maybe there's something that you're looking for from the prosecutors. But in this case, it seems like it's all or nothing. So fight as hard as you can and make it look more like a boxing match than a courtroom battle.
All right. Thank you so much. We will continue to follow that trial and that case out of Connecticut. Our own Aaron Keller was there today. He'll be back on air later this afternoon with plenty more about that. Meantime, let's switch gears back to the Skylar Richardson trial. We want to tell you that we are in verdict watch for that right now. Closing arguments wrapped up earlier today. So let's go back and play some of the defense's closing arguments.